Hey everyone, and welcome to this Explainer. Today, we're taking a fascinating look at something literally every single one of us experiences. Yep, we're talking about fear. And we aren't just going to sit here and talk about what it is, we're really going to break it down and explore some incredible expert-backed strategies to help untangle all those hesitations we hold on to. So, if you've ever felt held back or just completely frozen in place, you are absolutely in the right place.
Okay, let's dive into this because honestly, most of us treat fear like it's exactly that, right? Like some sort of ghost. We picture it as this mysterious, kind of shameful phantom that just haunts us from the shadows and dictates what we can and cannot do. We tend to think of it as a personal weakness or a major character flaw. But I really want to challenge that preconceived notion right out of the gate here. What if fear isn't a ghost at all? What if it's actually something entirely mechanical?
You see, fear actually isn't a weakness at all. Your brain is quite literally just acting as an association machine. It's working exactly the way it was designed to. Our absolute greatest fears usually stem from past traumatic episodes or specific negative experiences, and your brain just automatically links that pain to current, completely unrelated situations. For instance, if someone is terrified of driving, it might just be the mechanical result of a childhood car accident, or maybe an authority figure who repeatedly told them driving was super dangerous. Your mind is literally just trying to protect you. It's not a ghost, it's just machinery doing its job.
All right, let's move into Section 1, the roots of fear.
So beyond just past trauma, fear totally thrives on projection. You see, anxiety actually happens when your mind decides to time travel. It completely rushes back to the past, or it fast forwards and predicts some terrible negative future. And in doing that, it causes you to completely lose touch with the present moment. We often feel this anxiety because we cling so tightly to these rigid expectations of what normal should be, or how things are supposed to go. And sometimes it's even deeper than that. Sometimes fear is just an incredibly primal call of the void, that totally irrational pull toward the very depths or dangers that terrify us the most. But the common denominator here, you are no longer in the now.
Moving right along to Section 2, exposure and grounding.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we actually approach our fears. The most effective tool out there is exposure therapy, but you do have options. On one side, we have direct exposure, which is basically tackling the fear head-on, but in really small doses. But hey, if direct exposure feels way too daunting, you can use a super clever workaround called orthogonal exposure. Basically, this means engaging in a completely different but highly related activity. For example, learning to ski or hang glide can actually build the underlying self-confidence you need to overcome a primary fear of heights or flying. You're basically attacking the fear from a side angle.
Best-selling author Mark Manson really hits the nail on the head with this strategy. He points out that if you're terrified of heights, you definitely don't try to cure it by taking an elevator straight to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I mean, that's just a recipe for a total meltdown. Instead, you conquer it through gradual desensitization. You start out on a second-floor balcony. You just stand there until the panic naturally subsides. And then you progressively work your way up until the whole experience becomes comfortable. It is all about those manageable baby steps.
But what about when the panic feels immediate, like right now, when you're caught in that horrible anxiety loop and you just cannot focus on gradual steps? Well, the absolutely crucial point here is getting back to the present moment. Expert Jay Shetty recommends something called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. It's essentially a sensory countdown. You literally stop whatever you're doing and acknowledge 5 things you can see around you, then 4 things you can physically touch. Next, listen for 3 distinct sounds, identify 2 things you can smell, and finally 1 thing you can taste. This instantly short-circuits that time-traveling brain we were just talking about, pulling your mind right out of that panic loop and anchoring it firmly in the present reality.
That brings us to Section 3, reframing failure and state.
Okay, I want you to really look at this number, 99%. It's massive, right? Kind of intimidating. But we need to reframe what this number actually represents. This right here is the sheer volume of failure required for practically any truly meaningful achievement.
And this brilliantly illustrates the philosophy of Soichiro Honda, the legendary founder of Honda Motors. He viewed success not as this perfect straight line, but as merely the 1% tip of an iceberg sitting above the water. And what exactly was that 1% built on? It was built entirely on the 99% that we usually label as failure. He genuinely believed that if your work gets rejected, you don't run away. You go back, you study the why, and you improve.
This is just an incredibly empowering takeaway for us. If you view failure as 99% of the required process, the sting, it just completely disappears. It's just necessary feedback. As Honda perfectly put it, The only real failure is doing nothing. That is literally the only time you truly lose. Everything else is just data gathering for your ultimate success.
But here's the thing. Sometimes you literally can't just think your way out of fear. You have to move your way out. Tony Robbins famously teaches this idea that emotion is created by motion. You can actually change your fear by changing your physiology. By simply adopting a power pose, standing tall, taking deep breaths, for just 2 minutes, you create a real biochemical shift in your body. It is scientifically proven to lower your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, while simultaneously boosting your testosterone, which is what drives confidence. 2 minutes of physical action literally rewires your biochemistry. No way, right? It's amazing.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 4, Purpose and Allies.
This is such a profound insight from billionaire entrepreneur Sarah Blakely. She points out that fear naturally shrinks, gets noticeably smaller, when your purpose becomes bigger than your pain. If you're entirely focused on yourself, well, fear has a whole lot of room to operate. But when you connect to a why that actually serves other people, when you know that your product or your mission or your voice fulfills a genuine need for someone else, you suddenly unlock this hidden reservoir of courage you never even knew you had.
And on a super practical level, the absolute biggest asset in conquering any fear is an ally. Find a supportive friend, establish some real accountability, lean heavily on those allies when the stress really peaks. Why? Because having someone in your corner makes it exponentially harder to bail on your goals when that inevitable panic sets in. We are just so much stronger together than we ever are in isolation.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Conquering the Void. Let's see how this all builds together.
So here is your core toolkit. First, identify your specific fear, and remember, it's just an association machine at work up there. Use gradual exposure, or try that orthogonal exposure from a side angle. Master your physical state through grounding and power posing to literally rewrite your biochemistry. And above all else, take massive, meaningful action, knowing that failure is really just feedback. Remember this, whether you are 25 or 65 years old, your dreams have absolutely no expiration date. You have the expert strategies right here to dismantle those barriers holding you back.
I really want to leave you with this lingering thought today. The absolute best things in life, the deepest relationships, the greatest achievements, the most profound joy, they just aren't found inside your comfort zone. So, I challenge you to apply just one of these strategies today. Step up to that metaphorical second-floor balcony. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what amazing things are waiting for you on the other side of your fear?